First day back at school for the kids. It's too close. Oh, hole! Welcome back to Modular Monday. The reason why I bring up the kids going back to school is because I was using summer school holidays to do album prep, and I said I was going to get underway in September, and people have started teasing me when I bump into them. Come on then, when are you going to get on with your album? Things are formulating in my head. Just got a few more bits of kit to handle the polyphony. So I went shopping first, just some standard modular fare alongside another couple of goodies, but mainly oscillators, VCAs and some contouring. First up, the Make Noise Maths, then another Make Noise module, the X-Pan Micro Mixer. With all these oscillators, we're going to need some way of merging and mixing these sounds. Their Contour Envelope Maker, an Erica Synths VCA Quad. I've got the Moleko Quad LFO. The features on this thing are absolutely nuts. Exciting, this 4MS topographic delay, and last but not least from Future Sound Systems, their OSC1, which they subtitle a cyclical engine. So not enough time to look at it all today, so I thought I'd focus on two. The Moleko, because it looks so, well, just so bloody useful. I know I'm going to get so much use out of it, but also the way that this VCA works, I think will really complement the Future Sound Systems module, which we'll start with. It's just two massive polymaths based down in Bristol. Finlay, the founder, was a synth designer for Novation, who I have a new adoration for, and his partner Jamie was an engineer at Real World Studios and is a qualified pilot. So clever guys. So this is a mix of the four wave shapes you get with their OSC1, and starting from the top you have two standard coarse and fine pitch knobs. You can also switch between a super low frequency range to high. This thing, I'm told, is pretty good at holding pitch tracking over 5 or 6 octaves. So I'm coming out of the mix output where each of these VCAs control the balance between the different wave shapes. The mix output is post VCA, each of the separate wave shape output is pre. So you have sawtooth, triangle, sine and rectangle. This attenuator is for the shape and it kind of clips the top and bottom of the waveform. I like how the shape affects the sine wave in particular. It keeps the sound fat whilst giving us something a little extra for people listening on, I don't know, say an iPhone speaker. Okay, so I'm going to send it an LFO, and you can see that these VCAs respond to audio rate oscillation, so you can full on AM modulate. Here I've got 4 LFOs delivering to the 4 wave shapes, an excellent way of adding shape to a sound before messing around with it further down into the patch. Standard 1 volt per octave, and again very tight pitch tracking over about 5 or 6 octaves. So sending an LFO into the frequency modulation input, again you can frequency modulate audio rates. The frequency modulation capability is anecdotally 20 Hz to 20 K, so the modulation aspect of this module is a big deal. Sync input resets the start of the waveform every time an input waveform cycle repeats. So basically another modulation type. Inject input, which they think is a fairly unique feature, sits somewhere between FM and sync. And finding, according to your shape attenuator, it means you change the amount you adjust or chop off those bits of the waveform, again to an incredibly fast frequency potential. Okay, onto the Moleko Quad LFO. I'm going to attach it to the FM modulator of the OSC1 so you can hear what it's doing. 4 LFOs with 5 sliders for each, so change what you're controlling by hitting these toggles. So a great way of having all sorts of poly oscillation. This switch changes between fast, slow or trigger. There are 5 different wave shapes. Here I'm slowly listening to each. The The distort slider, to my ears, make the waveform more random, but it has really interesting effects when turned up full. I'd love to hear this on a VCF, for example. The level is how much voltage difference or how deep the oscillation is that you want to spit out. Amazingly, this LFO also has a sequencer, so where you see those little step sequencer lights and just below reset, you can change the direction, whether it's forward, reverse, bouncing up and down, or random. And by hitting record, you can punch in slider positions for the different steps. This will take some practice though. I wonder if it's worth giving it a much slower clock to be more precise when recording and then bringing it up to song tempo for playback. Quite excited. Now have enough oscillator power and VCA and slew and all of the gubbins I need to handle the multitude of polyphony that I'll be handing it from my KeySense piano bar thingy. Now, there's no real point in using a piano just as a MIDI controller. You may as well just use a keyboard. So what I'm wanting to do is experiment with using the piano both as a MIDI source, but also as a sound source, but without you actually hearing the piano. So I've basically got this connected to the Frankensynth, but I've got the piano itself. These two mics are being summed to mono, and I'm sending that to the Game Changer Plus audio sustain pedal, which if you haven't heard about, check out the link above. It's my favourite purchase of the year so far, second only to the Otto BAM, which I'm also using to drench everything in snotty squelch. So for me, it's going to be all about recording and sampling cells and using musicians to improvise against those cells. What's really vital with the modular system is that it can react to the expressiveness of those performances. So what I'm using is Mutable Instruments ears. Now I was going to use my lav mic, but this is how you're listening to me today. So I thought I'd use a kind of repurposed pair of headphones. And in fact, if you just have a listen to it whilst it's on my knee, instead of using them as a percussion instrument, because I could just do that with this thing, I can actually control an envelope shape, which I think is going to be really handy for working with live musicians, being able to lean into their instruments and have the Frankensynth kind of react. So let's go. I don't know, does shouting into a headphone break it? I hope not, because these are expensive. I'll get that later. It all starts here. I've got my piano bar, and you can see if I just play one note, all it's doing is transmitting gate and pitch over one channel. If I suddenly, then you'll see there's two there. We've got the cyclical engine, the ataraxic, the MCO and the STO, and then we've got gate information going to this maths module and this maths module, 1, 2, 3, 4, to basically create some kind of tasty envelopes. These are then going into this black quad VCA, which are in turn going into a voltage controlled filter. So a bit of the old filter on. And then we're going into the Otto BAM. Thanks as always for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't done. I'll do this between barks. A really interesting bit of Eurorack has been lent to me next week, so do subscribe if you haven't and ding that bell if you want to be notified the next time I put a video up. One of those, always much appreciated for the efforts of Maleko and future sound systems engineering brilliance. See you next time. Come on, Barker.